This is question number 5. And for this question, anybody can answer, okay? Again, I'm going to provide some context, but anybody can answer, so there's not going to be any order. Parents' right to voice needs is the subject area. Recently, former board president resigned and a SFUSD executive director was appointed to the school board with no special election in sight. This action stifled the voices of thousands of public schools parents. Additionally, on October 18th, Superintendent Wayne resigned. And 48 hours later, on Monday, October 24th, a press conference was held with the mayor, the local teachers union, the local admin union, Board of Education commissioners, and the state superintendent, announcing that Dr. Maria Sue, executive director of the Department for Children, Youth, and Their Families, will be the new superintendent of schools. At a board meeting on October 22nd, parents and others communicated their concerns about the lack of involvement and the expectations they wanted to see for the new superintendent. They felt that there was also a lack of K-12 experience and also teaching and credentials. This resulted in a lack of integrity in the democracy as our institution. So here's a question. What are your thoughts about the Board of Education engaging parents ahead of this critical decision, given that guardrail number 1, effective decision-making, is a guardrail of our district? What actions would you have taken if you were the commissioner during this time? And what do you believe are the direct or indirect consequences that may result from this situation? So please just raise your hands if you'd like to respond.
There's a lot going on with the district. Perception is reality. And what I'm about to say is not criticism of any individual or their background or whatnot. But I think this it's been setting a poor precedent of appointing people into positions that are supposed to be elected positions, and also the superintendent being a should represent the highest quality and expectations for leading our public schools. And so in order to do that, as with any company or any organization, there should be an extensive search to fill the position. And so it was I understand that we're under a very extreme circumstances, facing a takeover and a sudden resignation. But we shouldn't stop at appointing people into positions. And the Board of Education has a responsibility to the public to maintain the integrity of a democratic institution, like the title of this the forum, to make sure that there's proper processes in place, and to have those processes published before and have those processes in place before, or we should have those plans in place so that people aren't caught off guard. And so it's very disappointing that we keep going down this route, and now we're seeing this precedent of appointing people into these positions. But we need to do better, and we have to set high expectations for our main educational institution. And so we have to hold the Board of Education accountable to continuing that effort.
Yeah, so I was actually at that last board meeting that you referenced, and I spoke at the public session as well. And I would say that even before going into the room, just outside, when I was walking up, I was thinking, well, now that they paused school closures, it would be really quiet, right? There wouldn't be any protests outside the 555 Franklin. But I was mistaken. I was really happy actually to see that Spring Valley was still out there protesting when I went into the boardroom. We got Sutro folks there. Yigwu was there. Harvey Milk. All the schools that were on the list, they were all still there. Everybody was still there. So I would say the voters and the parents know better. They know better that closing schools is actually not the answer. I've been saying this since the beginning. And I think the parents know this is a temporary pause. They know that this is a lot of politics or maneuvering, if you will, went into this as well. And so I would say that I was actually really encouraged to see that our voters or families are really smart. They've seen these kinds of actions happen in SFUSD already, and they're not fooled by it. And so, coming to the nature of your question around sort of some of these things. So my own perspective is yes, the superintendent is not blameless in this for sure, and his leadership team. However, he is not the only one in this. The Board of Ed also has accountability. The SFUSD Board of Ed is actually a pretty powerful group because it's independent from the mayor's office. And so I do think that, the night before he actually resigned, I was at Sutro and there was a huge show of people and I'm really protesting. And I think he was there by himself. Honestly, Dr. Wayne was there by himself. And there's some really tough questions, really tough things lobbed at him. Not that he didn't deserve it, but I would say there were no board members there to support him. A lot of the board members kind of washing their hands and saying this is all Superintendent Wayne's issue. And I do feel that he is scapegoated in this situation. In a time of crisis like this in business, what we do is we actually don't throw more noise at it, right? You don't want to add more complexity when you're already in a crisis. What you do is you work through the crisis, meaning I would have preferred working with Dr. Wayne and his team, get through the crisis, the financial crisis, and then you evaluate, is this the right person for the job or not? Because when you start putting your thumb and doing political maneuvers a few weeks before election, it only causes more chaos and more confusion. It does not help at all. And I'm glad to see that parents actually saw through that. So I think it's really important that as a new board, hopefully a really good new board come January, that we are super transparent with what it is we are doing. And then we keep our eyes, do not lose sight, right? Laser focus on what's really important here. And that's the kids, the families, the parents, right? Politicians will continue being politicians, board members that have board jobs, but the parents are the ones that have to pick up the pieces if we don't do this right. The kids are the ones that are going to suffer if we don't do this right. So it's really important, right? Super, super important to get this right and actually put people on the board that really want to be there to solution and actually do the right things finally, hopefully. And to do this without closing schools, because I do think there's a solution to doing this without doing that, that we can, take a look at revenues and not also costs. There's a whole bunch of details I poured over with SFUSD. So there's absolutely a solution that we can get to fix the crisis without closing school.
Yeah, it's really sad to just watch the school system deteriorate before our eyes. And it's just kind of the same pattern. And I think the big problem here that both Virginia and Min had alluded to is there's just no transparency. We make all these decisions behind closed doors. We don't include the families. We don't include the students. When I had my school, there were only only three groups of people that I was concerned about. It was my students, their parents, and the teachers. And that's what my life as a business owner revolved around. And I was constantly talking to them, constantly getting their feedback. If a child was having any kind of problem and the teacher alerted me to it, then I would immediately have a discussion that day with the parent, and we would nip it in the bud right there. It wouldn't have time to fester. Kind of like what Min was saying. You don't throw more noise at it. You just tackle it right there and do your best to nip it in the bud and then try to move forward. But there's just I haven't unfortunately attended the school board meetings, but from what I've watched on the videos, there's just no two-way dialogue. It's you get up there, you give public comment, and you sit down, and then there's no follow-up. It's like you need to engage with these parents afterward or somehow to settle their concerns. You just can't let them go home with these concerns on their mind. It's just not healthy. You need conversation and you need transparency at the end of the day. Thank you.